Good afternoon, members of the public, members in attendance today, and staff. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Monday, January 15th, 2024, our first meeting of the year 2024. Wishing everyone a happy new year as we commence our work today. So I'll call the meeting to order at 1 p.m. Begin with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Kapamonaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory in the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. There's a slight amendment to the agenda before us today with regards to one of the bylaw adjustments. I could ask the clerk to speak to it, but if anyone's amenable, it's just a technical briefing. So if I can look for a mover and a seconder of the amended agenda, Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor. That amended agenda is approved. Thank you for that. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest for today's meeting? Seeing none, we will move on to the next portion of the meeting, which is our one and only delegation, Ms. Celia Hunter, with regards to the Millbrook Cavan Historical Society. Ms. Hunter.
To Mayor Graham, Deputy Mayor Huntley, to Councillor Byrne, Councillor Edgerton, and Councillor Natchoff. On behalf of your Historical Society, I, as President, thank you for this opportunity to come personally to thank you for your support and bring into focus what we do and what's in the works in the coming months. In part, the mandate for MCHS is to bring people together, to encourage them to learn about our own local stories and tell our own, and to interest them in the broader sense in various aspects of history in general. It is by enriching everyone's connections to this community through an understanding of and appreciation for this place that we foster pride in where we are and what we have here in Kapamonaghan. Next slide, please. Our Constitution lists among the objectives of MCHS that we recall the past, that is, keeping it in the record and in our consciousness, and preserve the present, valuing, appreciating what we've inherited, and treating it respectfully and responsibly. Maintaining artifacts and written records, documents, newspapers, maps and plans, photographs and family histories that are of historical interest in the context of Kapamonaghan. Encouraging people to take an interest in local history and in research, and continually updating the records of our local heritage, historical, architectural, and archaeological. The background slide image in this slide features our archivist and genealogy authority, Kim McLeod, on the right. She and board volunteer Dan Bourgeois, on the left, are working on digitizing the catalog for the MCHS collection so that the information we have in our archives can be more easily accessed by the public. Dan also helps with scanning new accessions, donations of documents, news items, photographs, and other memorabilia. Every week, we answer a number of inquiries about people, places, and events in the past. We can usually find what they're looking for or point them into other resources that will help them in their search. Next slide, please. Our local events over the past year have been held in a variety of settings. We've rented the Lion's Den and Branch 402, the Legion Hall, for our evening gatherings. And we're hosted by the Millbrook branch of Kapamonaghan Libraries for 2 afternoon programs this past fall. Next slide. We also produce regular newsletters, maintain an active Facebook presence, and we're currently refreshing our website, which is generously supported by Nexicom. Our pandemic project was the production of our self-guided tour booklet. I think you're all familiar with it, Heritage Millbrook, which is distributed free of charge and available at local retail outlets and at the libraries. They're also at the Peterborough and Kawarthas Tourist Bureau and several other out-of-town locations. Next slide. Finally, we maintain Needler's Mill, which we purchased from Otonabee Conservation in 2018. We also collaborated with them in the placement of an information kiosk several years ago, supplying the text and photographs. We look forward to unveiling an additional information panel that will be installed on the mill in this May as a memorial tribute to a former keen supporter and sponsored by her family. Next slide. All this is to say we've been working very hard, and we're delighted to be recognized for this work through your support. Thank you for your gold level sponsorship of MCHS. Board volunteer Rachel Finney, pictured here, is our communications and marketing officer. I'm sure she has thanked you in writing, but I am here to add a personal thank you from all of us on the board. Next slide. A lot of what we do is behind the scenes. We very much appreciate the space we have upstairs at the Millbrook branch of Cavan Monaghan Libraries, where we're able to archive the materials entrusted to us. We're also appreciative of the location because people seeking information are able to come in and meet with Kim or another volunteer to do research or study relevant files, maps, deeds, and histories. They're also able to contact or connect with library staff and use the library edition of Ancestry to help them in their genealogy research. Next slide, please. But for many in the township, particularly new residents, the archives are far from mind. To engage people and to encourage their interest, we've injected some fun, holding trivia nights at the Legion, and sometimes adding a little humor to our exhibits in the Millbrook Library display cabinet. Next slide, please. Having fun in the late 1900s, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, here in Cavan Monaghan is the focus of the talk MCHS will be giving at this Thursday's Community Care Luncheon. Highlights of other coming events are an evening with Bill Slavin, award-winning author and illustrator and longtime Cavan Monaghan resident. That will happen in February. A talk by archaeologist and U of T professor Tom Moore in April, and this will be at the Hall in St. John's, Ida, as we endeavor to reach out and be out more in the township. And at our AGM in May, we will welcome Alderville First Nation historian Brian Beaver as our keynote speaker. Next slide, please. Then in June, on Saturday the 15th, we will celebrate some of the best aspects of our rich heritage with Blocks and Blooms 2024. This day-long self-guided tour invites both our local community and people from the whole region to enjoy a stroll through glorious gardens and landscapes, admire and appreciate some of the outstanding heritage properties in Millbrook and beyond, and delight in the artistry, skill, and designs on display for the airing of the quilts. This event was a spectacular success in 2018, and we look forward to it being even better this time around. Final slide, please. As an entirely volunteer-run, nonprofit registered organization with charitable status, we deeply appreciate your sponsorship. We depend on donations like yours, as well as our membership fees, to do all that we do. If you have questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentations. That's great. It's a lot of work. I know myself and other members of council will attend a few of the events. throughout the ship that you posted, and they've been wonderful, some great get-togethers and some great commemoration of the history. Questions from members of the council? Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, not so much a question, just a comment, and thank you very much for coming out today and for your presentation to BIA the other day as well. And, we're really hoping your Blocks and Blooms thing takes off and is quite successful. And we really do appreciate all the other pieces that you do in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Huntley. Any other questions? If not, thank you for the coming, Celia. We look for a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you very much for coming again, and we'll get back to the regular course of business. 6.1 is the minutes of the regular meeting held December 18th, 2023. Any issues with the minutes? If not, I'll look for a mover and a seconder for those minutes. Deputy Mayor Huntley, Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? Those are approved. Minutes from committees and boards. 7.1, we have North Valley Trails Advisory Committee meeting minutes of October 23rd, that they be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Those are approved, I should say. Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting minutes of November 21st, 2023. We received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? Those are approved. We move on to the reports portion, and the first up is Chief Belfour with regards to the dispatch renewal agreement with the City of Peterborough. Chief, over to you.
Thanks, Carly. I got it. Sorry about that. Okay, the report before council today is the fire dispatch agreement, and the recommendation is that council authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the fire communication services agreement bylaw number 2024-01. This agreement is a 5-year fire services agreement for dispatch services provided through the City of Peterborough. This agreement is also takes in all 8 townships within Peterborough County. And the agreement is based on a percentage of households in the town for the township. And the costs for the township are outlined in the report for the full 5 years, and are also contained in the attachment for the agreement. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Questions, members of council. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to the chief, does this agreement, how does it impact, and if it does in any way, excuse me, because we share some of our response with Kawartha Lakes out of Bethany for the western portion of the township. This agreement's for everything to the east. Is there any impact at all on how they would get dispatched to cover anything in our township and those agreements you have with those overlapping zones?
Through the mayor to Councillor Byrne, it's an excellent question. Contained within the attachment in the report, you'll see there's different zones and things that are set up between my office and the City of Peterborough. And for the example that Councillor Byrne used, the auto aid agreement that we have for the City of Kawartha Lakes, that's a seamless process. That's when the call comes in from 911, it's processed. The notes are put in the what they call the CAD system, the computer aided dispatch system, and those parameters and response protocols are preloaded in, and then they're toned out. So for an example, if there was a medical emergency received in that zone, our responding units wouldn't go out, but the City of Kawartha Lakes would. So service is provided, but we're not doubling up on the service. It's a seamless to make sure that the right resources are dispatched in a timely manner based on the call criteria.
Thank you, Chief. Other questions, members of council? Seeing none, we are just receiving the council authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute the fire communication services agreement bylaw number 2024-01 is the recommendation in the report. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Edgerton and Councillor Natchoff, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you for that, Chief. You're up again with regards to the fire station update.
Okay, the report before council today is an update on the fire station, and it's for information only. We wanted to provide a progress on the new fire station and ambulance station for council. There's been some setbacks that have been attributed to contractual complexities that is leading the project to fall behind, but we're happy to provide an update in the sense of we're back on track, and we have the foundations are when the report was written, they were 80% finished. But as of last week, they're now 100% finished, and we're looking forward to receiving the pre-engineered building. Will be on site the last week of January, first week of February. Then you'll start to see walls being stood up. And the other update for council, if you remember back in October, we finalized the agreement with the ambulance service. So that's underway, and we're waiting for the completion of the fire station, and they'll be joining us in that building as well. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
No, thank you, Chief. Nice to see that, there's been a lot of action actually on the site over the last weeks, obviously completing. That's nice to hear that they've finished that work despite the conditions. Is there any, you allude to the potential supply chain issues with regards to the prefab structure. Is there any more granular details that we have now about if that might cause delays? I mean, the end of the month is only a couple of weeks away. So, with regards to shipping the structures of that magnitude, do we know if they've been assembled in their different prefab construction, and then there's just a matter of getting them trucked here? Or is there any more insights that you might be able to provide with regards to the status of that portion of it?
As late as last week, I was in a meeting on that very subject. They have a laydown period, a laydown spot prepared out on the site. The system will come in sections, so it won't come pre-assembled. They'll have to do some assembly when they're here. And again, that portion of it is on track because there's been, I know that the pre-eng building is on track for no later than the first couple of weeks in February or as early as the end of January. What we're noting in the report, as I'm sure council and maybe members of the public have experienced, when you go to order something throughout the other portions of the project, you can stumble on little things that can hold things up. And that's why the contractor, they have this end date of end of July, first part of September, but just noting that we can't control if there's those holdups due to supply chain shortages on different items that we couldn't even begin to think of what they could be at this point.
Thanks, Chief. Questions, members of council? Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through you, Chair, I kind of answering my question right there, as I was saying, I don't see a distinct line on here. It says occupancy or move-in date or anything like that, but you're saying it's targeted between July and September. So potentially August kind of timeframe is what we're looking at. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions, members of council? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair to the chief, is this prefab structure dramatically different from anything else this company's produced before? Is it something unique, or is it kind of a package type of thing they're comfortable with?
So through the mayor to Councillor Burns, the actual structure, so the contractor Gay Company is ordered the building through ComSteel, okay, or Steelway. You'll see those in different buildings. That company is very familiar and experts in building these pre-engineered. So you kind of tell them what they want, they draw them up, put them together. So they're experts in those. It's not anything unusual that they've seen. And Gay Company is an experienced constructor of those types of things. So while it's a customized building and there's nuances to our particular building, everyone in the field is an expert in putting those together.
Thank you, Chief. Other questions? If not, we're just receiving this update for information, so I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Natchoff, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? That is approved. Thank you, Chief, for those two updates. We'll move on to 8.3 on the agenda, which is the removal of holding symbol from HR 20-H12. Matt Wilkinson is presenting today. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council and the public, before you is planning report PEB 2024-01. This report is regarding the Wildman removing of a holding symbol from HR 020 H12. The report recommends that bylaw number 2024-02 be approved to remove the holding symbol, the H12, from the Hamlet residential exception 20 holding 12 zone as it pertains to 2148 Davis Drive, being part of Lot 1 Concession 11 in North Monaghan. In June of 2023, council reviewed and approved bylaw number 2023-47. This was to rezone the property to permit a detached accessory apartment that was subject to the holding symbol. The holding symbol can now be removed with the submission of a scoped hydrogeological study that demonstrated the existing well can supply an acceptable quantity and quality of water, so the proposed accessory structure would not unacceptably interfere with existing nearby wells. The owner has recently provided the required information, and Township Public Works and Planning staff are satisfied with submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. If I'm not mistaken, this is sort of the last sort of box to check with regards to this property, as it's been before council a number of matter of times, but it seems as though everything's gone well, and thanks for expediting the further parts of the process. So this is just a bit of a formality after the at the end of the line. So I'm sure the proponent will be happy to see this come to fruition. If there's any questions with regards to the report, we can take them now. Councillor Byrne.
Through the chair to you, please. I just trying to make sense of the water testing and what was performed. There's roughly 68 wells in the area. Some of them have been abandoned. I'm not sure. One's marked that it's no longer used. One was marked that it was unsuitable. I'm not sure just what that meant, but what I would like to know is how you picked the wells you picked to monitor. And then I was trying to figure out the graphs on what I call page 98 and 97, I think it is, to figure out the duration. You might not have this in front of you. I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to make sense of it to figure out the normal testing of a typical well anywhere type of thing. It looks like it was a pump test of roughly 6 hours. When I look at the graph, if I'm understanding it properly, and I have little to no knowledge about this, I would have thought that when you first pump down the test well, you go down to a point where it was virtually dry, for the lack of a better expression. And then you would try to get an established flow rate for a set period of time that I thought would have been more than a couple hours to say that the well can withstand this much gallons per minute. You have everything in liters, but I just wondered how all that pertains. And then I was looking at the one where you actually monitored the other wells. Are you sure, or even if they are in the same vein of water? Because it's my understanding different water veins have different properties and characteristics. Just trying to figure out why you chose those other 3 wells out of the potential 68.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Burns. I didn't do the report. This was GHD. So we did have the Director of Public Works review the details that you're referring to. I don't have it in front of me to answer your specific questions, but I'd love to get back to you on some of those more pressing details. I can tell you that the project was approved, so the standard for the well that was pertaining to the project, to the property itself, was looked at, as opposed to the 68, which is just a well inventory of the area.
Alice.
Thank you, Mayor Graham, to members of council. Just to add to that, just to give you an idea of how these exercises come about. So we have a standard terms of reference that we supply. That terms of reference was generated through the generous help of a professional hydrogeologist. So we use that standard terms of reference to provide to the applicants. They take that and hire their own expert, and they follow that standard. So it's those professional experts who determine what wells get tested, how long the pump test is, and that's probably all related to the specific conditions of the area, the type of land use, the anticipated draw on the well system. So that type, they would take that information and then make their determination of what wells to test, how many wells to test, and how long the duration would be.
Follow up, Councilor Byrne?
Yes, through the chair. So in your conclusions from Cambium, just a little unclear, I'm looking at 5.0. I don't know if that references anything you have on hand. You're talking about the test well. Would it be able to produce a sustainable peak yield for one house? But you don't assume it's going to have it for a second dwelling. But later on, you talk about it being capable of handling this next house. And I'm not sure what dwellings we're talking about. And they're talking about a second well. The one I think you tested is a original well that was drilled inside a concrete dug well. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Graham, to Councillor Byrne. I'm sorry, we don't have the report in front of us, but we can reply back. What you're saying seems familiar to me, but I can't absolutely confirm that to be the fact. But there is an existing well on site, and I believe there will be an additional well drilled to support the new house.
Yeah, I believe it's page 86 in the report, but again, I think with regard, like this is within the Cambium report, so it might be best staff can take note of the questions and we might have to follow up with Cambium to get some of them. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Ellis as well, with regards to the well testing in the vicinity, I think it's a voluntary basis that certain individuals, I don't think it can be mandated and imposed on individuals. I think it has to be a participation request and approved by the property owners, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct in your understanding? I just think that might influence who the three are as well. If others aren't home or aren't able to be contacted, that also is a factor, if I'm not mistaken, from previous application.
To you, Mayor Graham and members of council, that is correct. So they would identify the wells that they would like to monitor and test. But it does depend on who is willing to do that. It also depends on the quality of the well. Not all wells have the capability of being monitored for a test like this. So it is, there's a science to it, and there's also a permission from the owner of the well that's required.
Follow up, Councilor Byrne, and then I'll go to Deputy Mayor Huntley.
Through the chair, just one other on that topic. I noticed the time of testing from roughly 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock at night, give or take a little bit. That would be the least load on any house in the area. I just wonder if that's standard, that's the time you would test, like nobody's home, nobody's using the washrooms, nobody's doing the laundry. Is that relevant to what would impact later on in the day if everybody was home?
Through you, Mayor Graham, to Councillor Byrne. When these types of studies are completed, they are completed by professional hydrogeologists. So we leave it to the professionals to determine at what time of day, what day or days of the week kind of thing to do the testing. They are the ones who provide a professional opinion to us to indicate whether the proposed use can occur without adversely affecting any existing wells. So I've got your question noted. We will follow up and see if we can get an answer, but we do rely on the professional expertise of the company retained to do the report to make that assessment.
Yeah, and as it alludes to in that portion of the report that's talking about, I mean, they can extrapolate what peak, they use the baseline as to provide a number that they can extrapolate on to adjust for what peak usage will be. So they do it in the time and test in the time where it's the least impactful, because they can extrapolate that usage will go up 30 to 40%. And what they're testing for also, as it alludes to, is that they're not looking for multiple dwellings. That's only the accessory apartment. So the capacity implications, they've shown none in the 3 wells that they've tested implications with the drawdown that's been executed. So there's no, it doesn't show up whatsoever with the drawdown of that significant amount, even though it's not competing at other times. But they use that as sort of the baseline to then extrapolate and forecast other impacts of peak usage. So sorry, Deputy Mayor Huntley, I've put you off a little bit, but over to you.
Oh, no problem. I'm not a hydrogeologist, so I won't pretend to be. But my question's more like there was a lot of great information that was researched and got out of these wells and discussed it with these people. But I'm curious, how long does this data survive? Like, so if another neighbor or down, across the street or within that area was to, implement an accessory living dwelling or whatever we call them these days, would they have to go through and redo all this testing, or would this testing data be valid for that unit, that next unit along the road?
Through you, Mayor Graham, to Deputy Mayor Huntley and members of council. So we do keep all of this information on file. If another application comes along in the same area, we would make the information available to that proponent. Whether they would have to generate new information would depend on what the proposed use is, the location of the property, how far we are in the future, what additional changes might have occurred to the landscape in the interim. So it's really, it would be evaluated on its merits at the time. So I can tell you with plans of subdivision, which do much more intensive hydrogeological assessments, all of that information is kept on record as well. And we do refer back to it on occasion. But generally, in my experience, a new report is required.
Deputy Mayor Huntley, a follow-up?
I was about to say, I'm grateful that we're keeping it and I'm grateful you're using it. Then you ended with that last one. We're going to do it again anyway. I'm glad to know that the documents are kept and they're used if possible. Is really what I got out of that. So thank you.
Any other questions with regards to the report? Otherwise, we can look for a mover and a seconder. We're receiving it for information at this time, if I'm not mistaken. Just scroll it back up. Moved by Councillor Edgerton, seconded by Councillor Natchoff. Call for the vote. All in favor? That is approved. Next, we have the CAO capital status report. Ms. Hurley, any updates?
Good afternoon. I do have a couple updates. Just recently, late last week, we found out that ICIP, we will be working with the government on that application to see if we can amend it based on the motion of council pertaining to the removal of the Millbrook Arena. So we've had good feedback from them and they're going to work through that process with us. So it wasn't a no, it was let's continue to talk and let's see how that process works and see what we can do. So we will be working through that. So that was very good news to hear. And so hopefully we can continue with that project and utilize those funds for the future uses there. In addition to that, my mistake, I should have amended the update on the jail lands. He did provide an update. We just received that from Mr. Hancock. However, so you did receive the written report update, but what I didn't allude to is we're I'll keep it on there because we're meeting with the province soon as we get a new contact for that department or for that issue. So we're just waiting for that. So I think we had identified February. So that was my mistake. I should have identified February for potentially a new meeting. And that's what I have thus far today.
Deputy Mayor Huntley?
Through you, Chair, I think you missed an update there, but it's for the good, and that is that there is a crossing guard and those lights have been changed on Sherbrooke in front of Crestwood. So I went up there the other day. You could see those lights from a good distance. So it was a huge improvement over what it was.
Through you, I think I mentioned that the last one that they were starting. So we are very pleased. They started with the first of this year in January. What we left on there is we're still looking for feedback from the County of Peterborough that, but yes, we are very pleased and I hear the feedback has been excellent.
Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair to the CAO, I would like to request, if I could please at this point, that staff may bring forward some kind of report in regard to the costing of the last 4 general elections we've had in the township. So that'd be 2010, 2014, 18, and then 22 again, if I could, please.
Any issues with that, Ms. Hurley? We need a motion with regard to that or mover and a seconder to add that to that list. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Edgerton. All in favor? That is approved. All right, so pardon me. Councillor Byrne was the mover, Councillor Edgerton was. Okay, so that will be added and we'll get to report on that at a future date. Any other questions with regards to the capital project status report from the CAO? If not, we'll look a mover and a seconder for that report. Moved by Councillor Natchez, seconded by Councillor Byrne. All in favor? That is approved. With regards to, we're now at council verbal reports with regards to committee updates. So as we're in a new year, this is more my due diligence and lack thereof for a better word, but just a reminder that the intention of this portion of the meeting and what we're going to try to institute, I think we've had mostly discussions with everyone during those budget conversations, is when we're attending those committee meetings, we'd like to get 2 or 3 takeaways from each meeting with regards to that councillors can provide at these sorts of just juncture in the council meetings as we move forward. So just to clarify that and just reiterate that, but if anyone has them, I have a couple. I can go first, but Deputy Mayor Huntley, we'll start with you.
Sure, through you, Chair. We had a couple of activities with the BIA recently. We had the AGM last Thursday, which we presented the budget and all the good work that BIA has done to the members. It went over quite well and quickly. We also had a BIA meeting where we pretty much established all the dates for the events. I won't even try to rhyme them off here. I'll let let that report come forward with Ms. Hyatt. But including things like Blocks and Blooms that Celia presented to us today, and the Zucchini Festival, and trying to incorporate all of the events into one piece and producing like we used to call the bookmark that we put in the different shops, so everybody was aware in advance of what was coming. And in the spirit of AGMs, Orca's AGM is this Thursday at 4 o'clock at the Riverview Zoo. So anybody who wishes to attend, feel free. Come on out, see. It will end my tenure as chair, but should be a good event anyway. And that's it from my boards.
Thank you for that. Anyone else have any updates? Councillor Byrne?
Not sure if this is the right time or place, but I noticed that the coverall building going up at Iron Equipment is structural steels in the air and the tarping starting to go on. I was curious. I saw it in the front page of the Millbrook Times. I still don't know who won the float for the parade we had.
Is anyone aware of, I don't see Ms. Hyatt, but is anyone aware of the victor of the float contest? If not, we'll look for that at the next meeting so we can recognize the winners appropriately. Thank you for that, Councillor Byrne. With regards to my updates, we had a special meeting with regards to the library budget last week. In addition to the meeting previously, most of our conversation has been around the budget and getting our updated submission in. There's ongoing work that is committed, sort of 2 projects for the library moving forward for this year. One is sort of an exploration as to what is the appropriate way of utilizing DCs into their capital budget. So we've made some adjustments and moved some things that were more capital related expenses out of operating into capital so that they are DC eligible, but that's going to be an ongoing project. And then we're also spending a significant amount of time going through the county audit of the IT components of the library that are going to require some sort of investment in adjusting and making sure that they're insulated from cyber attacks and also just have a higher level of security. So we're working with township staff and the county staff to go through that as well to see if we can come up with a better solution to address those concerns and also benefit from procurement arrangements that the county might have as well for actual hardware and updates to IT business. We have our next library budget meeting, library board meeting tonight, tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. In addition to that, I was also last week at the police services meeting. We alluded to an update on the strat plan, which is in February, highlighted the recent appointment of the deputy chief who was in attendance. And we also had a brief discussion and presentation from the K9 unit about the existing K9s and how they're utilized by the police service. So it's very interesting. And I think that's the extent of my updates. So seeing no other updates, we can look for a mover and a seconder to receive those updates for information. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Edgerton, all in favor? Those are approved. There is no general business. There is no correspondence for information or correspondence for action. We are now at the bylaw portions, which will include the addition of 12.3 that was alluded to in the amendment of our agenda. And I will read those for you now. That bylaw number 2024-01 being a bylaw to authorize the Township of Monaghan to enter into a fire communication services agreement with the townships of Geraldumber, Trent Lakes, Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, Ashfield, Norwood, North Kawartha, Tonabee, South Monaghan, Selwyn, and the County of Peterborough and the City of Peterborough. And that bylaw number 2024-02 being a bylaw to remove the holding H12 symbol from the bylaw number 2018-58 as amended, related to the lands described as Part Lot 1, Concession 11, Geographic Township of North Monaghan, Township of Monaghan, and that the bylaw number 2024-03 being a bylaw to stop up and close a portion of Ashley Crescent described as part of Lot 23, Concession 11, Geographic Township of Cavan, being parts 1 and 2, Plan 45R-17568, Township of Monaghan, County of Peterborough, to authorize the transfer of part Lot 23, Concession 11, Geographic Township of Cavan, being parts 1 and 2, Plan 45R-17568, Township of Monaghan, County of Peterborough, to Woodview Properties, Inc., and its nominee be read a first, second, and third time past this 15th day of January, signed by the mayor, the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Counselor Byrne, Counselor Natchoff is the seconder. All in favor? Those bylaws are approved. There is no unfinished business. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, the confirming bylaw, that bylaw number 2024-04 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held January 15th, 2024, be read a first, second, third time past this 15th day of January, signed by the mayor, the clerk, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Moved by Deputy Mayor Huntley, seconded by Counselor Byrne. All in favor? The confirming bylaw is approved. Last but not least, the motion to adjourn the meeting today. Deputy Mayor Huntley and Counselor Byrne, all in favor? That is approved. There's a number of upcoming events. As I had mentioned, the Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting is Tuesday, January 16th at 7 p.m. at the Millbrook branch. The Mr. Hack Committee meeting is Thursday, January 18th at 9 a.m. Motor Valley Trails Advisory Meeting meets Monday, January 22nd at 2024 at 4 p.m. We have a special council budget meeting Thursday, January 25th at 1 p.m., followed by a second special county budget or council budget meeting January 25th at 6 p.m. The next regular council meeting is Monday, February 5th at 1 p.m. in the council chambers, and the meeting after that is February 20th at 1 p.m. Thank you all for attending. And we will look forward to seeing you at an upcoming event. Take care and